Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 4 चैप्टर 21 वर्स 34 असाविहानेकगुणो अगुणोऽध्वरः पृथग्विधद्रव्यगुणक्रियोत्तिभिः सम्पद्यतेरर्थाशय लिङ्गनामभिर्विशुद्धविज्ञानघनस्वरूपतः. Supreme Person of Godhead is transcendental and not contaminated by this material world. But although he is concentrated spirit, Ghanaha, concentrated spirit soul without material variety, for the benefit of the conditioned soul, he nevertheless accepts different types of sacrifices performed with various material elements, rituals, and mantras, and offered to the demigods under different names, according to the interests and purposes of the performers. For material prosperity, there are recommendations in the Vedas for various types of sacrifices. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that Lord Brahma created all living entities, including human beings and demigods, and advised them to perform yajna according to their material desires. Sahayagna praja srištva purovacha prajapatihi anena prashavisyatvam eshavo ishta kamaduk. These performances are called yagnas because their ultimate goal is to satisfy the supreme person of Godhead, Vishnu. Because yagna is Vishnu, another name of Vishnu is yagna. The purpose of performing yagnas is to get material benefit, but because the aim is to simultaneously satisfy the Supreme Lord, such yagnas have been recommended in the Vedas. Such performances are, of course, known as karma kanda or material activities, and all material activities are certainly contaminated by the three modes of nature. Generally, the karma kanda ritualistic ceremonies are performed in the mode of passion. Yet the conditioned souls, both human beings and demigods, are obliged to perform these yagnas because without them one cannot be happy at all. So this is the basic expectation that one doesn't do vikarma, at least one does karma kanda to start with. Some material act, some prescribed yagna sacrifices to get material benefit. But because they also aim to satisfy Vishnu in parallel, such yagnas are recommended. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that these karmakanda ritualistic ceremonies, although contaminated, contain touches of devotional service because whenever there is performance of any yagna, Lord Vishnu is given a central position. That's why after any puja etc. at home nowadays all pujaris who come they say Krishna Arpanamastu. So Lord Vishnu is given central position. This is very important because even a little endeavor to please Lord Vishnu is bhakti and is of great value because this is the beauty of being born in India. Even a little endeavor to please Lord Vishnu is bhakti and is of great value. A tinge of bhakti purifies the material nature of the performances. So amazing. Which by devotional service gradually come to the transcendental position. So tinge of bhakti, because there is little endeavor to please Vishnu, That tinge of bhakti purifies the material nature of the performances, which by devotional service gradually come to the transcendental position. So slowly, even though they're engaged in materially contaminated activities for material interest, because there's a little endeavor to please Vishnu, there is a little tinge of bhakti, it purifies. And then those performers, those people, they come eventually to devotional service. Therefore, although such yagnas are superficially material activities, the results are transcendental. The yagnas as Surya Yagna, Indra Yagna, Chandra Yagna are performed in the names of the demigods, but these demigods are bodily parts of the Supreme Person of Godhead. See, we should understand, it doesn't mean that we should go and we should start these yagnas. This is for those people who have not come to Krishna. Those who have not come to Krishna or Vishnu, they can engage in all these yagnas so that eventually they'll come to Vishnu. But those who are already come to Krishna or Vishnu, we don't have to go and do these things. Not required. The demigods cannot accept sacrificial offerings for themselves, but they can accept them for the Supreme Person of Godhead, just as a departmental tax collector of a government cannot collect taxes for his personal account, but can realize them for the government. Any yagna performed with this complete knowledge and understanding is described in Bhagavad Gita as Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahmakarma Samadhina, Brahmarpanam, whatever offering, Arpanam to Brahman. Since no one but the Supreme Lord can enjoy the results of the sacrifice, Lord says that He is the actual enjoyer. Bhaktaram Yagnatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Sacrifices should be performed with this view in mind, that He is the enjoyer. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. See here, the verses Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havir, Brahma Agni, Brahmana Hutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma. So everything is just talking about Brahma. Brahmana Hutam, whatever is offered by the spirit soul in Brahma Havihi, Brahma Agni, Brahma Eva Tena Gantavyam. Brahma Eva, he has to reach the Brahma. So here Prabhupada is saying, although the word Brahma is repeated, the word Brahma has different meanings based on the different context. So when it is Arpanam, uh, it is the whatever is contribution is spiritual in nature. Brahma Havihi, the butter offered to the Supreme. Brahma Agni, Agni is also Brahman. Brahmana Hutam, which is offered by the spirit soul. Brahma eva tena gantavyam. Brahma eva. Here Brahma is spiritual kingdom. Brahma karma samadhina. Activities which are completely Brahman. So by engaging in these activities, Prabhupada is saying that one who is fully absorbed, even in yagna, is sure to attain spiritual kingdom because that whole thing is all spiritual. There's nothing material about it. But of course, it has to be done in that consciousness. The performer of sacrifices must always keep in view that the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas are meant to satisfy. So this is important. Vishnu Aradhyate Pantaha. Anything material or spiritual done for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord is understood to be an actual yagna, and by performing such yagnas, and one gets liberation from material bondage. But the understanding is important, the consciousness that it is being done for Vishnu. Of course, this is done only by those who have material, who want material benefits. So they want material benefits, so they'll do these yagnas. Along with that, they also know that the results of that yagna, Vasudeva, Paraveda Vasudeva, Paramakaha. Bhagavatam, early first canto says Paraveda Paramakaha. So all sacrifices are meant to worship, were meant to please Vasudeva, Vishnu Aradhyate. So by doing it in that consciousness that it is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, even though one is looking for material benefits, eventually gets free. The direct method of getting liberation from material bondage is devotional service. So this is indirect method. This is only for those who are too attached still to material things. But this is for Paramanidmat Saranam, or those who already crossed all this material benefit process stage. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. This ninefold process is described in the verse as Vishuddha Vignana Ghanaha, or satisfying the Supreme Person of Godhead directly by transcendental knowledge concentrated on the form of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And Vishuddha, which is transcendental, Vignana, applied knowledge, Ganaha, concentrated, meaning purely spiritual activities meant to please the Supreme Lord. Mm. This is the best method for satisfying the Supreme Lord. One who cannot take to this direct process, however, should take the indirect process of performing yagnas for the satisfaction of Vishnu or yagna. Vishnu is therefore called Yagnapati, Shriyapatim, Yagnapati, Jagatpatim. This is another verse. Shriyapatim, Yagnapatim, Jagatpatim, Satvatam Patim. Tadarsha Tatra Akhila Satvatam Patim. Akhila Satvatam. All the great, entire devotees. Shriyapatim, goddess, Pati of the goddess of fortune. Yagnapatim, lord of the sacrifice. Jagatpatim, the lord of the universe. The Supreme Person of Godhead's deep scientific knowledge is concentrated to the supreme point. For example, medical science knows some things superficially, but doctors do not know exactly how things happen in the body. Now, Krishna, however, knows everything in detail. Therefore, his knowledge is Vijnana Ghana, because it does not have any of the defects of the material science. The Supreme Person of Godhead is Vishuddha Vijnana Ghana, concentrated transcendental knowledge. So this is that Vishuddha Vijnana Ghana, concentrated transcendental applied knowledge. Therefore, even though he accepts karma khandiya materialistic yagnas, he always remains in a transcendental position. Therefore, the mention of Aneka Guna refers to the Supreme Person of Godhead's many transcendental qualities. For he is not affected by material qualities. So he is Nirguna. The different kinds of material paraphernalia or physical elements are also gradually transformed into spiritual understanding, because ultimately there is no difference between material and spiritual qualities, for everything emanates from the Supreme Spirit. And because everything is coming from Krishna, everything is supreme, everything is spiritual, right? But when it is used, or when that energy gets used in the material world, it is just called material quality, right? Or it is just it is attributed a material quality, because it is being used in connection with the material world, which is temporary. So we call it material, but actually it is spiritual. There is nothing here which is material. It's all spiritual because it comes from the Supreme Spirit. This is realized by a gradual process of realization and purification. So these kind of things we cannot understand immediately and say, how is it possible? Because it is coming from the Supreme, it is also supreme. It is pure. Because it is being used for impure purpose, it is designated as impure. But actually it's not impure. The same impure thing, when it is used in the service of Krishna, becomes pure, which is what we call as dovetailing. So, you know, this computer which is manufactured is material. But because it is being used for the service of Krishna, it is spiritual, though it is made of material elements. Because the material elements cease to remain material, because the goal of the whatever computer is to please Krishna. One vivid example of this is Prthu Maharaj, who took to meditation in the forest to achieve material benefits, but ultimately became spiritually advanced and did not want any benediction for material profit. He was simply satisfied with the association of the Supreme Lord. Of course, even for that one has to do Tivrena. Yeah, coming here. Ashaya means determination. See, generally a conditioned soul has the determination for material profit. But when these desires for material profit are satisfied through performance of yagna, one gradually achieves the spiritual platform. So this is also very nice. because one has determination for material profit. The whole world is working with determination to get material profit. So Vedas are, giving this that same path for which they have determination. So let them go on with determination to get material profit, but in parallel, they'll be satisfying Vishnu. So that same determination will actually bring them eventually to the spiritual platform. Hmm. Then his life becomes perfect. Bhagavatam says, Akama sarva kamo va moksha kamo udaradihi. Tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Akama sarva kama moksha kama. Devotee who has no kama. Sarva kama. Karmi who has all kama. Moksha kama. Jnani or yogi. Anybody. Let them be anybody. Udharadi. Udharadi. One who is broad-minded. Udharadi. Because otherwise they will be narrow-minded in their own path. Karmi wants to do karma kanda. Gnani wants to do, uh, their own process, right? So, but one who is broad-minded, he'll say, oh, okay, okay, even I want sarva kama, it's okay, then I'll come to bhakti. He is broad-minded. He will accept. Tivrena bhakti yogena. Intense. With determination. Bhakti yogena yajeta. Worship Purusham Param, the Supreme Person. In this way, one can get both material and spiritual profit simultaneously. Of course, these things are not being spoken for pure devotees. This is being spoken for mixed devotees who have certain material desires. They're saying it's okay, you can do sacrifice. So the path given by the prescribed by the Vedas is sacrifice, wherein the direct focus, the focus is material benefit. Main intention is material benefit, but as a side business, they please the Supreme Lord little by little and slowly eventually come to the spiritual platform. Now, for those who are already on the spiritual platform, still if we have desires, still we should do Tivra Bhakti to achieve that. So Tivra Mishra Bhakti, that will be to achieve Kama. If you have Kama and we do it Tivra, then it will become, very intense Mishra Bhakti Yogena. But that is okay. But that is okay. Because anything in connection with Krishna purifies. But we should do it very, very intensely. This is the point. This is the beauty about Krishna consciousness, right? Without our knowledge, as long as we get it engaged intensely in devotional service, irrespective of what our desire is, eventually we will get purified. But that is eventually, you know, whenever might just take few lifetimes, right? But if you just do Tivra Bhakti without any material desire, then the result is perfection in one life. Like we discussed the other day also, one life, 15 to 18 years, only devotional service, pure devotional service, Tivrena, one can achieve perfection. That's what Prabhupada said. Yeah, so, but yeah, if somebody wants material profit, still Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. If one doesn't want anything, Akama, only wants Krishna's pleasure, still Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. But see, this is very, very difficult actually. This Udaradihi is the most important thing. People are so stuck in their own process, narrow-minded processes, which neither do they have the knowledge nor intelligence to see beyond what they are doing. But yeah, it requires real broad-mindedness to come to accept bhakti, process of bhakti, because uh, it seems externally, especially for people like Gnanis, it seems like too sentimental, not for the most qualified, or it's not going to give us the highest benefit. It seems like that because it looks very simple, so simple, really. Simply Shravanam Kirtanam, happy activities, no nonsense austerities, like don't eat this, don't do this, don't nothing, do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. So simple it is. So unless somebody is really broad-minded, very difficult to understand How such a simple process can give such an extraordinary result. And so most people get, they can't accept it. They'll go to suboptimal processes. But it's really, I mean, this is the essence of really everything. Why somebody has to come to that. That's why it's said it's okay if you have some desires also, but come to Krishna, do Tivra Bhakti. Don't go to demigods. That's a lower platform. Pradhana Kala Dharma Sangrahe Sharira Esha Pratipadya Chetanam Kriyaphalattvena Vibhur Yatha Nalo Darushu Tad Gunatmakaha. Supreme Person of Godhead is all pervading. All pervading. What is the word? Okay, Prabhupada is just explained. Okay. But he's also manifested in different types of bodies which arise from a combination of material nature, time, desires, and occupational duties. Hmm. Different types of bodies, how you do they arise? Combination of Prakriti, Kala, then our desires. Uh, Ashaya, desire, and occupational duties, dharma. Thus, different types of consciousness develop, just as fire, which is always basically the same, blazes in different ways according to the shape and dimension of firewood. Mm. So, different types of consciousness develop, even though the consciousness of the jiva, of the atma, is pure originally. Because of this contact with material nature, that is now getting contaminated, and different types of consciousness develop. Supreme Person of Godhead constantly lives with the individual soul as Paramatma. The individual soul has awareness in accord with his material body, which he attains by virtue of Prakriti. The material ingredients are activated by the force of time, and thus the three modes are manifested. According to his association with the three modes, divinity develops a certain particular type of body. In animal life, the material mode of ignorance is so prominent that there is very little chance of realizing the Paramatma, who is also present within the heart of the animal. But in the human form of life, because of developed consciousness, Chetanam, one can be transferred from ignorance and passion to goodness by the results of his activities. Kriya Phalatvena. A human being is therefore advised to associate with spiritually advanced personalities. The Vedas, Mundakopanishad, give the direction Tad Vignanartham Sa Guru Me Ma Vigachet Totriyam Brahmanishtam. In order to reach the perfection of life or to understand the real constitutional position of the living entity, one must approach the spiritual master, Gurum Eva Vigachet. One must Abhigachet. This used in the terms of mandatory. It has to. No, it's not optional. It is imperative that one approach the spiritual master, for by such association one proportionately develops his consciousness towards the Supreme Person of Godhead. The highest perfection of such consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Highest, according to the body given by Prakriti or nature, one's consciousness is present. According to the development of consciousness, one's activities are performed. According to the purity of such activities, one realizes the Supreme Lord, who is present in everyone's heart. The example given here is very appropriate. Fire is always the same, but according to the size of the fuel or burning wood, the fire appears to be straight, curved, small, big, etc. According to the development of consciousness, God realization is present. The human form of life, it is recommended, therefore, that one undergo the different types of penances and austerities described in Bhagavad Gita. Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Like a staircase, yoga has different steps for reaching the topmost floor. And according to one's position upon the staircase, he is understood to be situated in Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. Of course, Bhakti Yoga is the topmost step on the staircase of realization of the Supreme Lord. In other words, according to one's development in consciousness, one realizes his spiritual identity. And thus, when one's existential position is purified fully, he becomes situated in Brahmananda, which is ultimately unlimited. Existential position meaning this is just coming to the Brahman platform. Right? This is not uh, pure, it's not Bhakti platform, it's a Brahman platform. Because one realizes spiritual identity, saying that, oh, I am not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm this Atma. So become situated in that Atma and the happiness associated with that position, which is Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Because he realizes that he's not the body. But he's still very early, just liberation from misery. That's all Brahmananda is. Therefore, Sankirtana movement contributed by the Supreme Person of Godhead as Lord Chaitanya is the direct and easiest process for coming to the purest form. This is just the beginning of the purification. Mm, Brahmananda. But then highest platform is Krishna consciousness, a platform on which the Supreme Personality is fully realized. Directions for performing different types of yagnas are specifically arranged for the highest realization of the Supreme Lord as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself. The Supreme Person of Godhead is realized according to the portion of one surrender. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamiham. This is another sutra. This is a very, very important sutra. This is like that tam stitikshas for Bharata, like this. Ye yatha mam prapadyante. These things we should, always contemplate these things. Just proportion of one surrender. Full surrender, however, occurs when a man is perfectly in knowledge. Bhunam janmanam ante gnanaman mam prapadyate. Perfectly in knowledge. Then full surrender. Fully depending on Krishna. Fully following his instructions. Not trying to remain independent. Not trying to, engage in material activities. That is full surrender. But all this is just development of consciousness, different stages of consciousness, different types of consciousness. Initial consciousness is completely in ignorance in animal life. Then slowly consciousness becomes little bit developed. Then he moves from ignorance and passion to goodness. For ignorance to passion, then slowly passion to goodness. So consciousness is becoming purified. Finally, he comes to fully pure goodness, right, which is Brahman. And then consciousness further has to develop to come to the purest form, which is Krishna consciousness. So we are so fortunate. We are actually, in connection, in touch with the process, which is the purest form of consciousness. The platform on which Supreme Personality is fully realized. Brahman is platform on which only Brahman, the eternal aspect of the Lord, is realized. But Satchit Ananda is realized only in Krishna consciousness. And so we have to, all depends on our proportion of surrender. Proportionate to that, we will make progress. We will realize Supreme Lord. Aho mamami vitarantanugraham harim gurum yagna bhujam adhishwaram swadharma yogena yajanti mamaka nirantaram kshonitale dhridaprataha. Supreme Person of Godhead is the master and enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. He is a supreme spiritual master as well. All of you citizens on the surface of the globe who have a relationship with me and are worshipping him by dint of your occupational duties are bestowing your mercy upon me. Therefore, O my citizens, I thank you. So he is a supreme spiritual master. He is the master and enjoyer of all results of sacrifices. So everyone has to worship him. So whoever is worshipping him by occupational duties. So here still the whole conversation is still on the lower platform, Varnashrama. So those who are worshipping him by dint of your occupational duties, because that is actually the responsibility of a king or administrator, is to ensure that everybody in whatever position they are in, they are following their occupational duties properly. So if you follow occupational duties, it pleases Krishna. So that itself is the beginning of good citizen, good society. Is cultured society means Varnashrama. Uncultured society is below. They don't follow Varnashrama. Therefore, O my citizens, I thank you. Maharaja Prthu's advice to his citizens to take to devotional service is now concluded in two ways. He repeatedly advised persons who are neophytes to engage themselves in devotional service according to the capacities of different orders and social and spiritual life. But here he specifically thanks those already engaged in such devotional service to the Supreme Person of Godhead, who is actually the enjoyer of all sacrificial ceremonies and who is also the supreme teacher as Antaryami or Paramatma. So obviously, Prabhupada is saying that there are two levels of instruction here. For those who are at the lower platform, it's through the Varnashrama, through occupational duties. And for those who are directly engaged in devotional service, yeah, then that's the higher platform. The specific mention of the word Gurum, which indicates the Supreme Personality as Chaitya Guru. The Supreme Godhead in his Paramatma feature is present in everyone's heart, and he's always trying to induce the individual soul to surrender unto him and engage in devotional service. Therefore, he's the original spiritual master. Even though he's always trying to induce, just see how adamant we are. We are resisting his influence. Uh, we are resisting the influence of Paramatma. He manifests himself as spiritual master both internally and externally to help the conditioned soul both ways. Again, he manifests, but one has to take full benefit by tadvidi pranipatena, submission and surrender and questioning, inquisitive inquiries. Therefore, he has been mentioned here in as Gurum. It appears, however, that in the time of Maharaj Prthu, all the people on the surface of the globe were his subjects. Most of them, in fact, almost all of them were engaged in devotional service. Therefore, he thanked them in a humble way for engaging in devotional service and thus bestowing their mercy upon him. In other words, in a state where the citizens and the head of state are engaged in devotional service, they help one another and are mutually benefited. Mamami vitaranti anugraham harim kurum yagna bhujam swadharma yogena yajanti mamakaha nirantaram shonital. Yeah, firm determination. Yeah, so the verse is talking about swadharma. Like we know that there are two types of swadharma. On the conditional stage, it is varnashrama, and on the liberated stage, it is bhakti. So it can be in both categories of people. It can be addressed to both categories of people, which is why, which is what Prabhupada is explaining the purport, saying that it's everybody is engaged in devotional service because the idea was not sense gratification. It is to please Supreme Lord. That is the idea of Swadharma, that we already know from in the beginning itself. Uh, धर्मस्वनिष्ठितपुंसां विश्वक्सेन कथासु ह्य न उत्पादयत् यदि रतिं श्रमहेव हि केवलम्. So the swadharma has to actually help in increasing uh, urge to hear. Na utpadayat yadi rathim. If that doesn't utpadayat, produce rathim, attraction to the glories of hearing, hearing about Krishna. If the occupation doesn't enable one to develop attraction, ratim, then shamayevahi hi kevalam. Then it's a waste of time. That occupational duty is a waste of time. धर्मस्य ह्यापवर्गस्य नार्थोर्थाय उपकल्पते नार्थस्य धर्मैकान्तस्य कामो लाभाय हि स्मृतः. The occupational duty is not meant for it's meant for apavargasya. It's actually meant for ultimate liberation. Artha, not for artha. And artha is not meant for kama. So these are very basic beginning verses of Bhagavatam, which are actually, it can be said that if you can actually understand and accept these verses literally, especially on the platform of those who are working, it will make the path very, very easy and clear. We are doing work for kamasya nendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata. Jiveta. Only self-preservation should be the goal of our life. Just please remember this actually. Just self-preservation. We have to work for self-preservation. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nato yascheha karma bihi. There is no other artha end. No other goal. Yascheha karma bihi of work. There is no other goal of work except self-preservation. Because jivasya tattva jignasa. Why self-preservation? Because human beings have to do tattva jignasa. inquire into the absolute. So that is the idea. Okay, so I'll stop here if there are any questions, comments. Anything? Anybody? Okay. So summary is everything needs to be done for the pleasure of the Lord. Nothing needs to be done for sense gratification. Everybody has to earn money in Varnashrama, meaning up to 50 years, 55 years, just for self-preservation. And after that, try as much as possible to engage fully in devotional service. That is the goal of human life. Okay, thank you very much for joining. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.